teen shoots his mother after tablet argument. The tragic case of Theresa McIntosh. Welcome back to Unveiled Truth, Crime Tales. Tonight's story is one that leaves more questions than answers, a case where a normal afternoon turned into a tragedy that no family ever imagines facing. It's a story about anger, consequences, and a single moment that destroyed an entire family. In Cheyenne, a 41-year-old mother named Theresa McIntosh was trying to raise her teenage son. Like many parents, she worried about school grades, responsibility, and discipline. But according to investigators, tensions had been growing in the household. Arguments were becoming more frequent. And one day, an argument over something that might seem small, a tablet computer, would spiral into something unimaginable. Authorities from the Laramie County Sheriff's Office would later say that what happened inside that home shocked even experienced investigators, because the person accused of pulling the trigger was just 14 years old. Tonight we're going to walk through the entire story, the argument, the warning signs, the investigation, and the devastating consequences. Because sometimes the most disturbing crimes happen inside ordinary homes. Before tragedy struck, Theresa McIntosh lived a relatively quiet life in Cheyenne. Friends described her as hardworking. She ran a cleaning business, taking care of homes for clients across the community. It wasn't glamorous work, but it helped support her family. Theresa was also raising her teenage son. Anyone who has raised teenagers knows how difficult those years can be. Emotions run high. Arguments happen. And sometimes communication breaks down. According to reports, Theresa had been struggling with her son's behavior. School had become an issue. His math grades were slipping. And there had already been arguments about responsibility and discipline. The tension in the household was slowly building. But no one imagined how far things would eventually go. The conflict that triggered the fatal argument reportedly started with something surprisingly simple: a tablet device. Investigators later learned that the teenager had allegedly taken the device from one of his mother's cleaning clients. When Theresa discovered this, she confronted him. For her, it was more than just a stolen gadget. It was about trust, about teaching her son right from wrong. But for the teenager, the confrontation reportedly felt like an attack. According to court documents, the argument quickly escalated. Voices were raised. Emotions ran high. And the teenager later told investigators that he felt angry and insulted during the confrontation. At some point during the argument, Theresa allegedly began calling him names. Those words would later become part of the explanation he gave police for what happened next. One of the most disturbing details in the case came later during the investigation. According to the police affidavit, the teen admitted that he had thought about killing his mother before. Those thoughts allegedly occurred during moments when he was angry about being forced to do things he didn't want to do. Chores, schoolwork, rules. These are common sources of frustration for teenagers. But in this case, investigators believe those frustrations were turning into something much darker. Another key detail involves a gun. Authorities say the weapon used in the shooting was normally kept in Theresa's car. But about 1 week before the incident, the teen had secretly taken the firearm and hidden it in his closet. That moment, taking the gun, may have been one of the most important warning signs in the entire story, because it showed that the weapon had been accessible long before the fatal argument happened. On the afternoon of March 7th, the argument over the tablet escalated inside the house. At some point, Theresa was inside her son's bedroom. The teenager went to the closet. Inside was the gun he had taken earlier from his mother's car. Investigators say he retrieved it. Moments later, a single shot echoed through the home. Theresa McIntosh collapsed with a gunshot wound to the back of her head. But downstairs, life continued for a few seconds as if nothing had happened. Theresa's common-law husband, who was also the teen's biological father, was in the house. He was downstairs playing video games. He was wearing noise-canceling headphones. According to his statement to police, he heard a small popping sound. He thought it was a balloon. It didn't sound like a gunshot. So he kept playing. A short time later, he went upstairs. And that's when he saw his son standing outside the bedroom. Inside the room, Theresa was lying on the floor. The father asked what had happened. The teenager reportedly said he didn't know. Realizing something was terribly wrong, the father called 911. He attempted to help Theresa while waiting for paramedics. Deputies from the Laramie County Sheriff's Office arrived shortly after. They found Theresa unconscious, but still breathing. Emergency responders rushed her to a hospital. Due to the severity of her injuries, she was later airlifted to a medical center in Colorado. Doctors fought to save her life, but the damage was too severe. Theresa McIntosh died from her injuries. At the scene, deputies detained the 14-year-old. Initially, he told investigators that his mother had shot herself. But detectives quickly began noticing inconsistencies in the story. As questioning continued, the teen eventually admitted the truth. He said he had shot his mother during the argument. Prosecutors charged the teenager with first-degree murder. Despite being just 14 years old, authorities decided he would be tried as an adult. If convicted, he could face life in prison. The case immediately drew national attention because it raised difficult questions about youth violence, mental health, and access to firearms. Perhaps the most heartbreaking moment came from the father's statement. According to court documents, he told investigators, "I don't want to think what I think happened." He couldn't even bring himself to say the words. For a parent, the idea that your own child could commit such a crime is almost impossible to process. In one moment, he lost his partner, and his son was taken away in handcuffs. The death of Theresa McIntosh remains a painful reminder of how quickly anger can spiral out of control. A simple argument, a hidden weapon, a moment of rage, and a family destroyed forever. Cases like this force us to ask difficult questions about communication, mental health, and responsibility. But for one community in Cheyenne, the loss of Theresa McIntosh is something that will never be forgotten. If you found this case important to hear, make sure to subscribe to Unveiled Truth, Crime Tales. Because every story we tell reminds us of one thing. Sometimes the truth is more disturbing than fiction.